Hi, Erica. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Hi, Julia. It is so nice to be here.
Yes, I am so excited to have you because much like other guests that we've had, you are a close acquaintance because you work for Equilife. And so I can't wait for us to have a conversation and let the listeners hear what it's like for two Equilife coaches to go back and forth. So excited to have you. What I'd love for you to do first is share with our listeners how you kind of got into the health and wellness space. Where did you start? What were you doing before you came to Equilife?
So back when I was 5 years old, just kidding, we won't go back that far, but I've always been interested in health. It's just been my jam. I've just been drawn to it. So when you're drawn to health at an early age, the only opportunities are medicine, right? Or so you think. So I applied to become a graduate level physician assistant at a very young age, went into conventional medicine early on, and then realized, like a lot of people, that didn't offer everything that I wanted. I slowly segued my way into integrative and functional medicine, and here I am.
That's great. So when you were in conventional medicine, was there a point that you kind of had like this aha moment where you thought, I'm not sure that this is giving me everything that I need? Was there like a part of it that slowly trickled in? Was it one moment?
Yes. So, and here's what's really interesting. And Dr. Cabral alludes to this a lot on his podcast. When we learn conventional medicine, so what a PA does is very similar to a nurse practitioner. We learn the medical model of practice, which is essentially conventional medicine. We essentially take medical school courses. We're just trained a little bit differently. So when we learn pathophysiology, we learn disease progression, and then we learn the medication to treat it. And there was this missing piece of the puzzle where I would always go, well, how does that happen? And how can we change that? But that part was missing. So that led me to outside reading. You know, I got on the Whole30 and Wheat Belly and all of these books that were kind of popping up in the early days, maybe 10 years or so ago. And that kind of got me on the path towards more integrative wellness.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And for the listeners, just because I was a little confused with NPs versus PAs, you primarily work in emergency rooms. Is that correct? You're mostly hospital-based, or when you were doing that primarily?
Yeah. So acute care is what I particularly did. NPs and physician assistants can do a lot in the medical field, but essentially we are the ones diagnosing, treating, prescribing medication, and working alongside a physician to make that happen.
Okay. And so I know at one point you were doing that full time, and then you transitioned to more of the integrative stuff with Equilife. And during COVID, you kind of went back to the emergency room for a period of time. Was that stressful? What was that like? I think our listeners might be curious to hear.
So I know this podcast is for busy moms, and I love to be the busiest mom ever. So I was at Equilife and loved kind of segueing into Equilife full time. When COVID hit, our hospitals were really at a loss for acute care help. So I had an opportunity to kind of help my community in a very acute way, given my background, given my training. So I was able to do that while still supporting Equilife. And now I've kind of segued out of that, and I'm here full time.
Great. So with that kind of transition, let's shift our focus a little bit to, we're both moms, we're both health coaches. We both support a lot of, just by the natural clientele that we get at Equilife, a lot of moms who run labs for their kids, a lot of moms that run labs for themselves, and then like they'll rope their husband and then be like, hey, you're going to do this. And they can be kind of hesitant. And so I would love for us to have a conversation about what you think is kind of most important when it comes to not only supporting women and moms who we see as clients, but also how do we support ourselves so we can show up as the best version for our kids, for our clients. So let's first start with, what do you think is the most important way to support women who come to us with maybe not only health challenges of their own, but maybe when they have kids with health challenges too? How do they take care of themselves and their kids and family?
That is such a weighty question, right? And, you know, kind of diving into that too, we have to understand the majority of health coaches that we see, the majority of our IHPers are moms themselves, right? So you and I are both moms. Why do you think it is that health coaches or moms in particular are so drawn to be health coaches? Where do you think that comes from?
It probably just the natural nature of us wanting to help and take care, and our natural empathic abilities to, you just flip the script on me. You just asked me a question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me a question. I'm like, wait a minute.
Julia, welcome to my podcast here.
So yeah, I think it's really just our general nature and how that ends up kind of attracting what we feel like we're drawn to do in a profession.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think we're caretakers. I think we're natural caretakers, but that same strength also becomes a vulnerability when it comes to creating boundaries and taking care of ourselves, right?
Yep. We
have so much capacity for knowledge and for empathy and connection, but based on sometimes the ways in which we're raised, sometimes the scripts in which we're taught, sometimes the things that are reinforced for us, is that we need to care for others without regard for ourselves. And as we move into the role of mom, especially as we move into the role of health coach, and I think a lot of us feel this way, if we came to health coaching from another sector, maybe we're not familiar with the health field. Maybe health coaching is a passion. We've always been drawn to it. We're here, we're kind of living in our passion, something that inspires us. But now we have all this new knowledge. And now we need to know, well, what supplements do I use? What protocol? How do I talk to clients? Well, now you want me to create my own business. I don't know anything about business. I'm supposed to market myself, right? There's all the things. And so a lot of times when we get into this urgency syndrome, I call it, we want to do all the things and they all seem very urgent, right? What goes out the window first and foremost is our own health, is our own happiness, right? And not very many of us were taught boundaries, what boundaries look like, what they sound like. And I think it's very important as moms that we learn how to set boundaries because we need to model those for our kids.
Yes. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. The boundaries not only keep the relationship with our kids healthy, with our clients healthy, but also with ourselves. And, we're talking about kids and clients, but then there's partners, right? We, at the end of the day, might have a partner that we need to nurture and, keep that relationship healthy and happy so that, trickles over to our family. So I think in all aspects, boundaries are important to not only keep our relationships with others happy and healthy, but also the relationship with ourselves. Because
I agree. And I would push back on the happiness part a little bit, because I think when we first start to establish boundaries, and we say, I'm not able to do that. I have to say no to this, or I can't do it in that way. You're going to have to find a different way to do that. Or, honey, Friday is going to be my day. I'm not able to do anything for the family or for the kids until about 4:00 because I need to do A, B, and C. That happiness part might not be there, right? Your family might not be happy with that. But the way that boundaries work is you don't have to love my boundaries. You don't have to be happy with my boundaries, but you do need to respect my boundaries. And so I think that when women start to create boundaries, it incites a lot of friction. And then a lot of us who aren't used to friction, we don't like tension, right? We want our relationships to be happy. We feel that pushback. Maybe it's not even verbal. Maybe we just sense it, right? We're so impacted. We just feel people are a little uneasy with our new boundaries that we go, oh, okay, you didn't like that so much. Never mind. I'll be available at 9 a.m. and make everyone breakfast. Don't worry about it. I'll be here all day today. I'm just never going to do anything for myself. So I think that happiness part will come when mom's happy. Right.
Oh, and I love that so much. Yeah, that's might be the best pushback I ever got, because I threw out happiness as like this arbitrary word, but this is one thing that I've always struggled with, and that I've constantly, quote unquote, worked on with my own, call it a therapist, whatever, kind of a person that's just helping coach me to be the best version of myself. She's always encouraging me to do boundaries. She's saying, well, if this will make you happy, you need to ask for it. But the key is, she said, you can ask for it. It's sitting with the discomfort of whatever reaction you get, whether it be from your children, your mother, your husband, taking that reaction and going, it's okay. That's not mine. That's your reaction to my boundary. My boundary still matters. My boundary still needs to be, kept. And that's your feeling, and not taking it on as something now I need to fix, soften the blow of the boundary I just set, and so on and so forth. So yes, I so agree with you.
And I think we can parlay that into how we parent too, because so much of parenting is setting boundaries, and our kids look to us to be such sturdy boundary makers, right? Boundaries make kids feel safe. And not so much in terms of self-care setting boundaries, but when we think about our kids, you know, and setting a boundary doesn't mean you better stop, you know, doing that to your brother, or I'm going to do this and you're going to be sorry, right? That's not a boundary. A boundary looks like, I see that you're not able to take care of that for yourself. I see that you're having a hard time controlling your actions. I'm going to need to come over there and to remove you from that situation, right? Boundaries are calm. Boundaries are sturdy. So I think children get so much reassurance from a firm, sturdy boundary that we need to start implementing that in other areas of our life, right? If we just create a calm, sturdy boundary, I'm not able to be here today. I need to do this and this. I'd like you to make other arrangements. And then, yes, breathe through that discomfort, right? Because it doesn't feel good for us to be uncomfortable. Even when our kids push back against those boundaries, right? Mom, you're so mean. I hate you. I don't love you anymore. You're the worst parent ever, right? That feels uncomfortable. So discomfort surrounds all of our boundaries. And I think that's what makes it so hard for us, because when we grew up, we thrived on making other people happy, right? Mm-hmm. Good job. You did such a good job. Oh, that was so nice. You shared all of your stuff. Oh, you did all the things for other people. You're such a great person, right? Boundaries were never reinforced for us.
Especially women. Especially if you're a sister and you had siblings and maybe you were an older child, or girls, I think are more looked to take care of things, you know, whether it be, okay, can you pick
all the things?
Exactly. And then of course they got praised for it. So you think, okay, this is a relationship with my value. And so I better keep doing the things that please the adults or my caretakers to continue to get, you know, well taken care of. Yeah.
How do I get love?
Yep, exactly.
And I think that segues into a lot of us, you know, when you say, well, I need to set boundaries around the things that make me happy. I think a lot of people might, and I used to say this, I don't know what makes me happy. What actually makes me happy? I think taking care of everyone else makes me happy, right? It's not until you kind of step back and you need to search through what makes you happy, right? And maybe finally finding this health coaching field is what makes you happy. But it's very important to create boundaries around your health coaching, right? Around how you serve your clients, because that's also going to keep you happy in this role. The same thing that happens in your families can happen with your clients. You can give. And some clients will take, and they're never going to be satisfied. So creating those sturdy boundaries is also going to be paramount to creating a successful coaching business.
Of course. Yeah. And I even, the word happy, like even if we replace it with content, you know, some sort of like content piece around your work, around your relationships, and having some sort of understanding that, you know, the way it works and the way that it's going to serve you. And I think boundaries are just as important for clients, quite honestly, as they are for us as coaches, because the client then doesn't learn that, you know, we're going to be at their beck and call to answer they have to learn to trust themselves in their wellness process as well. And so the boundary serves them just as much as it does us as the coach.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, please save up all of your questions during the entire week. I will be answering them between hours of 4 and 5 p.m. on Friday evenings. And that's when I'll get back to you, right? Being very sturdy creates a better atmosphere.
Of course. Yeah. And I don't know if you've noticed that when you give clients like a little bit of a weight gap, they almost always answer the questions themselves, or like the thing, you know, most people are so used to looking outside of themselves for the answer that they're quick to ask. But then when they're left to sit with it on their own, and I've even noticed, you know, my coach can do the same thing where she, you know, won't get back to me for a day or two. And by the time the second day rolls around, I'm like, I breathed through it. I worked on, like, I'm good. I figured it out. And I know she's giving me my space to do that. And I love her for that, because that's ultimately what she's good at, is allowing me to come to the place where I need to be on my own. You know, she's my guide, not necessarily there to fix me.
Yeah. And that's your pushback against her boundaries, right? Both ways.
Yes. Yeah. It's so interesting how we work. So let's shift gears a little bit. And I'm curious if you have specific. So do you have specific suggestions, specific things that you do as a health coach that provide a lot of what you feel like you need, whether that's time, whether it's, some sort of nurturing, time in nature? What do you do? How do you kind of structure your life so that you're getting the things that you need while you're coaching and being a mom?
That's a great question. And it hasn't evolved overnight for me. I would say that I struggled with this a lot early on. I struggled with being busy and doing all of the things all of the time, sort of waking up in this, okay, what do I have to do right now to get going phenomenon? And really, it's just simplicity for me. And simplicity may mean wearing black yoga pants every single day and having 7 shirts to choose from Monday through Friday, right? Those are the choices. We're not going to deviate from that because I don't need to spend more time on that. It's having my water and my supplements next to my coffee in the morning, right? If we talk about habit stacking, and you can use this with your clients too, it's streamlining all the little things that I don't need to create urgency around, right? Same for breakfast, right? Even if that means we need to make the overnight oats and I hand them to my kids, that's what they have, right? We streamline every single process we can, because what matters most to me is that when I shut off, once I've completed my tasks for the day and I'm not getting bombarded or involved in all of the urgency tasks and prioritizing the most important things, I'm streamlining my day around the most important things. And then when I shut off, I'm not trying to work and be with my kids at the same time. So that time, that family time is crucial for me. It's protected for me. I don't have a phone during that time. I'm present because I also think it's so important that my busyness or my harriedness doesn't come out in anxiety that my kids then internalize, right? That's not their burden to bear. It's not what they need in order to thrive. So I make sure that my urgency is streamlined during the day. And then when I'm with them, I'm calm, I'm peaceful, I parent better, I create better boundaries, I have more joy in my life. And so that would be my protected sort of self-care time, because I don't want to get into the spiral of yelling and then feeling bad and then not having the time to create good meals for my kids and then feeling bad that I gave them something that they shouldn't eat or that I didn't have the energy or the bandwidth to do X, Y, and Z. So that was a really roundabout answer to that short question, but that would be kind of my self-care, my protected time. Anything in our life that I think we can streamline, the better. Why choose between one or two things when you can choose the same thing every time? It doesn't matter, right? Just make your life easy.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you bring up the word urgency, because I always find that that's when my mom anxiety kicks up. When there's urgency and I'm pulled in 3 different directions and it's like, what fire do you put out first? And there's chaos and there's unpredictability, maybe because I didn't, set a simple, this is what we're going to do because this is what works. And I'm like flying by the seat of my pants for breakfast and trying to be the perfect chef for everybody, give everybody what they want. That chaos and that urgency, even though everybody gets what they want for breakfast, like you said, my kids know mom's a raving lunatic and that's how we just started the day. And it's like, no, actually everybody probably would have been better if I said, this is what we're having. This is your choice. And I did it in a peaceful, content way. Now the day starts off in a much better note.
I think you're so right. And I think one of my parenting hacks for creating a lot of cooperation is choice, right? If I know you can either have choice 1 or choice 2, I'm still choosing the choices, but here you go. You choose what you want for breakfast, choice 1 or choice 2. They're both ready. I can hand both of them to you. You decide you don't want any. Okay, we'll move on to the next thing. But I think you're right. I think when we get stressed out, or let's say we're not even stressed, we have that to-do list in the back of our mind and we're trying to, how am I going to get all this stuff done? And I'm trying to parent my kids and the two just don't go together. I I have a hard time as a mom trying to do both. And I don't do both well. I don't parent well. I just know that. So I need to completely shut it off, put the phone away, be done with it so I can focus my bandwidth on them. And I think they deserve it. That's why we had kids, right? Not to try to, we didn't have kids to try to work and just kind of put them in the room and turn on the TV. We had kids to enjoy them and to, teach them.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that you say it's not their burden to bear, and, to bear our chaos, our angst, our busyness, whatever it may be. They came into this world not, asking to be the kids of, two working parents. And like you said, we kind of owe it to them to be present with them. We're still going to do a good, great job at quote unquote work when we're in those hours, but being able to be present and have quality time. I always say, okay, I can't spend all day with my kids, and sometimes that's my guilt. Mm-hmm. But when I am with them, making it quality time is usually what I focus on. And recently my son, my phone, I think was, maybe downstairs, or it was on a different floor where we were. He went upstairs and saw it, and he brought it down. He was like, "Mom, your phone." And in that moment, I was like, "Thank you." But that spoke volumes to me. He's like, isn't this thing important? How do you not have this in your hand? And I sunk. I wanted to cry, honestly, because I was like, wow. Mm-hmm. He said nothing. He didn't talk about how much I use my phone. He said nothing other than his urgency to hand it to me and be like, "I think you might need this. You're not hardly ever without this, Mom," spoke volumes.
Oh, and so you're already seeing the anxiety surrounding that device because they pick up on everything. They see everything we do. Mm-hmm. We don't think so. They see everything. They internalize everything. And you can probably comment on this. A lot of our health coaching people that we've coached or that I've seen, how many of us, even us, have anxiety related to something that happened in the past that we're still recreating in this moment, right? And how it's never going to be perfect, but how in tune do we need to be to the kids, the things that our kids are absorbing, that they're going to carry with them into their lives, right? Kids' gray matter is almost fully formed by the time they're 9 years old, right? A lot of neuroinflammation and neurological wiring is done at a very early age. So what are the patterns that are in motion already? And I think we can even see kids that we coach that have these patterns of gut-related, vagal nerve stimulated anxiety, right? That are going to continually be recreated for the rest of our lives. And I think it's so important if we go all the way back to the beginning, right? How does mom serve her mental health? How does she create boundaries? How does she create calm? And I don't think any of these strategies are foolproof. I don't think any one of us are perfect. I'm not perfect, but just like our health, if we can change 1% a day, right? If we can try one new thing a week, if we can do something to change the paradigm that we were in as kids, that maybe we're carrying out this day and age, right? We don't want to look back on it 30 years from now and be like, oh, I can see exactly why my kid's like that, right? What if we could stop that right now? That's active health coaching that we're doing for our family, right? The very thing that we got into health coaching for, we need to look at holistically.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like you said, the 1%, or even just being aware. I mean, that just bringing awareness to what your patterns are, patterns with your kids, patterns with your work, and, being observant enough to behavior. Cause I think some people may have taken the phone from their kid's hand and been like, yeah, you're right. Thank God. Thanks for the phone. But yeah. Thanks for my weight back. But in that moment, I was able to be like, oh, wow, this is not okay. We need to reassess what's going on here. And so just even simply being more aware, I think as moms and coaches, I think we're able to just learn from what we're experiencing in our environment is important too.
Yeah. And I think, we notice everything that goes on. We're very empathic. In that moment, you felt what was probably shame, right? In terms of how your son was interacting with you regarding your device. and if we can explain that to them at such an early age, right? Because they're not empathic enough. They are empaths. They can feel different things that are happening. But what if we said, wow, you must have thought that mom was really anxious without her phone. I actually don't need my phone at all, but thank you for bringing it to me, right? These devices, some sort of naming that and moving on from that. There has to be a learning point in there. There has to be a point where, we're sort of undoing what they're seeing. If we've already done some of this, I'm on my phone all the time and I can't, where's my phone? And that panic that sets in when maybe you've misplaced your phone and you're expecting a phone call. We've all been through that. But if we've already demonstrated that behavior is already in our kids' minds, how do we then undo it, right? It's the same thing that we would do if we yelled at our kids and we needed to repair. Mm-hmm. Right? That was a tangent, but
yeah, no. And in that moment, I actually wasn't anxious without my phone at all. And I did say to him, wow, you think that this is a really important thing for me, huh? Like this, he knew that this is important to my mom. She most always has this with her. Like, I need to return this. And so I explained to him that there's a time where, yes, my phone is important and I need it to do work. But right now I'm choosing to do something else with him. And so I don't need my phone. This is an important part of my time with, him to be. And so, yeah, I think.
Oh, you're such a good mom.
I'm working on it. I think it's a work in progress. I swear, I think I'll be doing it forever. Mothering the mother and, all of that, because it, like you said, it's what our kids deserve. And I think if we come from certain patterns, right, where we were taught, that whether, what love is or what, being quote unquote good is, I hardly ever tell my kids they're good, or bad, because it's like, well, what the heck is good? Okay. Good is just that you've pleased me. And
exactly.
That is a slippery slope. So, I think I will be a work in progress forever.
No, same here. Same here.
But at least we're working, right? It's what I do with my kids. I just praise them on their hard work. And so that's what I try to do with myself.
It's a journey. It's all a journey.
Of course. Yes. So let's talk a little bit about what you do with Equilife. So because I think everybody would love to know. And of course, some people listening may have had you as a health coach at one point, but what's your current role with Equilife and how much do you love it?
I love it a lot. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. It's fantastic. I came to Equilife as a full-time health coach. I'm still health coaching here. I am the health coach supervisor on the team and will be moving into more of that role, but still serving clients.
That's great. Yes. And we love having you. You're such a bright aspect. And I think, again, why I was excited to do this podcast is because I feel like we're kind of kindred mom health coaching spirits in that way. And so excited that you're still with us. All right, let's switch gears a little bit to specific resources because you're so well read. I think you probably listen to so many of the same experts that I do, as whether it's, again, health coaching, whether it's being a mom and showing up as the best version of yourself. Do you have specific, resources as far as what you would suggest to listeners, whether they're just trying to mother better or coach better, do both better? What are some of your favorite resources?
Oh my gosh. I don't think anyone can go wrong just learning more, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Find something that you're interested in, whether it's hormones, whether it's gut health. There's just so much information out there, and you're already ahead of the game, having gone through IHP, and you have such a great foundation of pathophysiology, of supplement knowledge, of protocol knowledge. But then we kind of get into the realm that's a little bit more esoteric, right? How do we work on our inner stuff? I really love Dr. Nicole LaPera. She was also on the Cabral Concept recently. She's known as the holistic psychologist. A lot of really good resources that she has. Just wrote a book that was, really excellent. All about kind of the things that we talked about, patterns. How do we evaluate those patterns? How do we change those patterns? Really interesting. I like the new paradigm of family systems. So anyone that's written work around family systems is really, really neat. I also like a couple of the more holistic approaches to child psychology. Dr. Becky at Good Inside, I really like her approach. Really well-trained psychologist who kind of flips parenting on its head a little bit in terms of addressing the things that we thought we should do that have been passed down from generations and rethinking why we do that and if we should continue to do that. She's really great.
I love her. You said something at one point that I was like, oh, that sounds like a Dr. Becky.
My husband would go, now you need to settle down.
Well, and I'll start in on like saying something and my husband will be like, Dr. Becky. Let me guess, Dr. Becky.
Listen to this. It's so good. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Yes, but she does. And she, like you said, she flips what we think parenting should look like on its head, but she does it in like such a, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. It's such common sense the way she explains it. It's such not mainstream sense, but it's not like she's speaking this foreign language of like, this is impossible to understand and do.
Exactly.
It's such common sense and like, whoa, how come this isn't mainstream?
Really relatable.
Yeah. So relatable.
And the other, I like Dr. Amen. And all of his stuff that's out there. And he's a lot more into like neuroinflammation across the spectrum. And when it comes to kids, I really like the quote of his that says, be curious, not furious, right? When kids are behaving inappropriately, there's a reason, right? Maybe it's an emotional, maybe it's a root cause, inflammatory reason, right? But sometimes that's a symptom, not actually what you should take at face value. I like his stuff. Dr. Datis Karazian is awesome. Sarah Gottfried, Kara Fitzgerald. I mean, just amazing. But I think if you took the time to get through Dr. Cabral's podcasts, you would already know more than, 99% of the population. If you still had time, then you can go find some other resources, but there's just such a wealth of information out there.
Yes, of course. And I think, you talked about like actual physical root causes, right? Of like kids' behaviors or even our own maybe emotional type of, whether it's hormones, whatever we're struggling with or kids are struggling with as far as like an inflammatory root cause level, which is of course what we address at Equilife. And I think why our conversation maybe got so passionate is because oftentimes we correct those imbalances. We do the protocols, the labs look better, and there's still symptoms within like the kids or the mom, or whether it's just a woman or children. And we know that there's like that other level, right, of what's going on even below that. And I think that that's why we kind of have that little passion that where we got off on and talking about it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we always say you can't out supplement your life, right? You can't just take a supplement and make everything go away. That's just like medicine, right? We don't practice medicine and we're not actually aligned with the conventional medicine model of care because it doesn't really work that well. So when we think about root causes and why we went through all of these protocols and did all this stuff, and I still have this one thing going on, that's where you kind of have to start to reverse engineer and do the work and think about, well, why, right? What are the patterns that I'm recreating in my life now? Where is there tension or anxiety that I'm holding on to, right? Where's the rub? Where's the discomfort? Where's the dysfunction? And there's always another level. It might be a little esoteric. We don't refer to this stuff as woo-woo because we really believe in it, right? There's energy. There's a lot more to it. We are energy.
And that's just a scientific fact. That's not like like you said, like a woo-woo opinion. Energy is all around us. We are made up of energy. The world is just an energetic field. And so, yeah, people that believe in science of quote unquote medicine and all of that, I think would have to agree that there's also an energetic field that we're all a part of. And I don't know about you, but when I'm in a better place personally, I am aligned. I do a much better job of showing up for my clients, and, my family. But if we're talking about health coaching, my clients will oftentimes be like, oh, that was such an amazing session. And I can tell when I'm even just the slightest bit off, and we give off and perceive the energies, that we're working with. And so it's such an important part of at least the work that I do, and I think is important.
Yeah, I totally agree. What do you recommend in terms of things that you've explored for energy work?
Yeah. So I do love shamanism. It's what I've done for a long time. I think it's the woman that I work with is a trained shaman, but she also does a little bit of like talk therapy with me, but how Dr. Becky would do talk therapy, or
Sure.
how, Nicole
Sure.
would do talk therapy. But I've also, worked a lot on chakra clearing and realignment and soul retrievals. And it wasn't really until I started doing a lot of energetic clearing that it was one of those things where like, I couldn't really tell you what was getting better. It was just getting better. I mean, my hormones got better. My sleep got better simply because I was much more aligned and much more clear for my body to just function better. My inflammation went down, and I don't think I'll ever, quote unquote, be done, because it's just, I think we were talking recently in a health coaching meeting, like peeling back the onion layers. It's just, we go one layer deeper. And every time I show up and think I have nothing to talk about, those are the meetings with her that I have the biggest breakthroughs. I'm like, I don't know what we're going to talk about today. And then I, end up in tears, and it's this huge, breakthrough of something. And I think, oh, thank God I came.
That's amazing. So you find that your work with your shaman practitioner has been, it sounds like maybe the most beneficial.
Yes. I mean, and then of course I've, worked internally through protocols, the parasite protocol, the CBO protocol. I've worked a lot, on my internal physical hormones as well, supporting stuff like that. But I think the thing that has shifted the way I show up in the world, whether it be to my family, to my clients, has been that. Yes. Because so much of my blocks, whether it be emotional, whether it be angst, they are mostly, from my childhood, right? It's stuff that I got, from situations in family life, and stuff that was passed down, not in a way that I think was intentional. I had amazing parents. I really
Sure.
did. And I had a wonderful childhood. But like you said, when we just kind of go through life unconscious, we're not aware of what we're passing down and the patterns that we're creating. And so, yeah, I think a lot of my remothering, and this all really took off when I became a mom. I realized, wow, I have, so much love that I need to give myself before I can truly love this baby.
Yeah, I think that's so true. The old adage of you can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we all know we have a very short fuse when there's nothing left in the cup, and you better not fill it up with wine, because that makes things worse.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. No, for sure. And again, you can only give to others what I think you're able to give to yourself energetically. I mean, if we're waking up and having, thoughts of like, I'm not good enough, whatever our negative thoughts and views are, we're going to have a hard time then being, we're showing up in a wonderful, meaningful way to others.
Yeah, I totally agree. Be grateful at the end of the day, be grateful at the beginning of the day. And so you're a mom and a health coach and a busybody. So when you're seeing these health coaches come through, they're working on their own health, they're working with clients, they're setting up a business, they're learning the stuff, they're doing all the things, and they have kids at home. Maybe they still work. Maybe this is on the side yet. What advice would you give to them about keeping it simple, making this work, making it so that they don't burn out, and that this passion of health coaching continues to be a passion long-term?
Yeah, interesting question. And I think we're ending this as Erica's podcast. So let me think here.
I'll have Julia on next week.
I think it really would be to not overdo anything. I think keeping keeping a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Even days where I'm just doing for, 4 days doing all mom, sometimes I can't wait to get back to health coaching.
Yes.
And when I've done 5 days of nonstop coaching and I've hardly spent any quality time with my kids, I'm burnt out from that. So I think it's honestly, what is the word I'm looking for? Some sort of a
balance,
consistent balance. Of equally doing all of the things that I love in a manageable, balanced way. And I think that and for some people, it might be 60% mom, 30% health coaching. It's not always 50-50 for me. Or, 30-30, 10, or, whatever the breakdown is, it's not always the same. I think I go through ebbs and flows. But I think it's maintaining a balance that feels good and works for you and your family, would be my suggestion. How about you?
I think you're spot on. And I think the other side of that too is not letting that other side of yourself kind of chitter chatter behind the scenes, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you're only doing 30% health coaching this week, but you have all this other stuff to do, right? That kind of noise that we feel that kind of tightens our muscles and makes us a little anxious, even if we're not recognizing that. And I love being able to kind of sit. And even if I'm not doing anything, my constant nature is to be doing, right? If I'm sitting, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I have a list of things, right? But I've really focused on sitting and being still and being present and saying, and I say this to myself, what I'm doing is enough. Mm-hmm. Being still is enough. Yeah, I need to be still right now, right? And just kind of creating that. I'm very norepinephrine dominant. I know that about myself. I have to make sure I don't go too far into that side of things. But yeah, I think you're right. That balance, whatever that means for us, there's no finish line, right? And I think when we become a health coach, when we get into this new sector, it's so exciting. And maybe the finish line is getting your website. Great, but then what? Maybe the finish line is getting 3 clients. Great, but then what? Or maybe the finish line is your first 10K month. Great. But if you've killed yourself to get there, what's left after that, right?
Right.
So there's never, just like in our health and just like in parenting, there's never a finish line, right? You just have to make sure you have enough stamina to keep climbing the hill and pushing the big rocks up the mountain. Otherwise, this will be a passion and you'll love it, but you'll maybe get burnt out. That's what we not like. So many people in this world need what we offer, what Dr. Cabral offers, and we owe it to ourselves not to burn ourselves out once again for another reason.
Of course, I totally agree. So I think listeners will probably be eager to hear more about what you have to say and kind of how you show up. So what I would love for you to do is share with us where they can find you on social media, because you always share great recipes, quick hacks, mom inspiration that I think whether it's just regular people listening to this podcast or coaches could certainly benefit from. So give us a little bit of where they can find you on social media.
Oh, thanks. And my social media, just to put this disclaimer on there, is a creative outlet. It's the only thing I use it for. It's not a business. I don't feel like I need to be there every day. I don't need to do a reel every day. I don't need to do a video 3 times a week and post 6 things that meet X criteria. It's just creative outlet. But I do love to share things that work for me and my family, and things that have made me a better mom that hopefully other people might find useful too. I'm only on Instagram at thehealthy.mama. And I share a lot about, like Julia said, healthy recipes. We're a very clean eating family, things that are fast because I just don't have a lot of time in the kitchen, as we know. Things that my kids like, different things that we try for health and wellness, and just kind of creating a more simplistic life. Simplicity is kind of my core value.
That's great. Thank you so much for being here. This was so fun.
This was wonderful.
Yeah, I hope we've been inspirational, at least to a few health coaches that were listening, if nothing else, who are trying to balance it all. And I hope we brought a little calm to their day, which I think you certainly did. So thank you so much for being on the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. This was so fun.
Thanks, Julia. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too, Erica.